All right, so welcome everybody to the July edition of the Texas Teams Community. We've got actually we have a bigger crowd on today than I thought we were going to have. There are so many people on vacation, and including just a full confession right up front, everybody that I was planning on having speak today. It was like, yeah, well, I'm actually going to be out of town. And so we're going to have a little bit of an open discussion. And I always want to start with a thank you to the DIR for being our great partner on the Texas Teams Community. We've got Mark Leavenworth on the line with us here. And Mark, you wanted to share something about the DIR calendar or something that's coming up.
That is right. Thank you, Michael. I always enjoyed these meetings. I just wanted to remind the group that there's the DIR website, dir.texas.gov. We have an event section on there that's got a ton of educational events. The majority of them are free of cost. And a couple of things to point out. We have an ongoing series called the Technology Today series. And we have an event scheduled for next week, Tuesday the 19th, called the Modern Culture of Data. And then in September, we have an event that we're working on that is called DIR Discover, and that's going to be an in-person event. And I'll share a little bit more information about that at our next Teams community meeting, but definitely save the date for that, and the focus is going to be data and technology.
Yeah, while you were talking there, Mark, I went ahead and brought the website up. It's dir.texas.gov. So if you haven't ever been there, y'all have actually made some really nice enhancements to your look and feel. So someone's been busy at work. And the events calendar is right up here. I don't know if you can see my mouse right here at the top under events. And I know Mark does a lot of work to keep these events up to date. And so, look at that, Microsoft Texas Teams Community for Texas Public Sector. So, Mark, were there some things that you wanted me to actually show on the calendar here?
I think what you're doing, just showing people how to get there, is the main thing that I wanted to highlight. And there's events that are DIR hosted, and also events that we promote just as good learning opportunities that are hosted by other organizations.
Yeah, and it's really a great place, as Mark said. When I was at Catapult Systems, I used to run public sector for one of our Microsoft partners called Catapult Systems, and so we would do events. And like I see, AWS is here. We have Slalom, which is also a Microsoft partner. So we got their architecture user group for AWS again. We got the automation user group, and then of course the big and ever popular Task Annual Conference, which is going to be July 31st through August 3rd this year, and that's just the month of July. So there's always a lot of good stuff. Mark, where is the TTS, the Technology Today series? Is there a way that I could show that?
So they don't have we don't have a dedicated page for those, but if you look, the Slalom event is part of that, and all of those events are going to be marked.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's got that TTS there up there at the overview top, and I'm going to get on mute here.
I'm not. Oh, there it is, right there. I'm sorry. I'm going to drink more of this cup of coffee that I made right before we got started here. I got up early this morning for no reason whatsoever. Okay, awesome. Yeah, this is really just a fantastic resource. So I mean, I'm not saying that any of them could be anywhere near as good as the Texas Teams Community, but they're worth attending. Just kidding about that. Okay, let me stop.
They're both good. They're both good.
You're very generous, Mark. I love it. So let me start up again with the PowerPoint Live. If you haven't used PowerPoint Live, and I know I've talked about this before, when you start to share, when you're using PowerPoint, there are multiple ways to share a PowerPoint. You can go under Share, and you can you click the Share button, and you can just share your screen. And by taking PowerPoint and putting it into PowerPoint presentation mode, that gives you it takes up your whole screen. And when you share that whole screen, you get your attendees will see everything that you have on your screen. They'll see your PowerPoint deck. The disadvantage for the presenter is that you then do not have the ability to see people that are on camera. You don't have the ability to see the chat unless you have multiple windows and you drag the actual Teams interface over to your other window, and then you share the window with your PowerPoint. And that's certainly possible, but then you're looking back and forth between two windows, and it's not quite as convenient. The second way that you can share, and that was just sharing your whole desktop. The second way you can share is you can actually share an application, so you can share just a window that you have open. The advantage of sharing just one window that you have open is if you share your whole screen and you get a pop-up on your screen, or you minimize the PowerPoint, or the PowerPoint dies for some reason, or something occurs, whatever is on your screen is being shown to everyone. And that could be bad. One, you might have some HIPAA health-related data or PII or something like that, and you might accidentally share something like that with your audience, which would not be good. Or, you just might be something embarrassing, or, whatever the case might be. Someone may, one of your friends at work may ping you on Teams, and the little pop-up pops up, and they're being snarky, and, you may not want that. So if you just share the window, the particular application, PowerPoint, then it'll just share the PowerPoint slide. But the third way, and the way that I prefer, is to use what's called PowerPoint Live. And so when you open the share dialog, it's the last one down at the bottom. And what it'll do is it'll bring up a list of PowerPoints that you've had open recently. Actually, there's 4 ways. I just thought of the fourth. So it'll bring up a list of the PowerPoints you've had open recently, or that you have open currently. And so you can pick it. It's actually, I think, just the ones you have currently open. And so that's a great way to share. And the thing I love about PowerPoint Live is that while I'm looking at this, you're seeing the full slide. I have the ability to use a laser pointer. I have the ability to use a highlighter and highlight things on there. I can use an eraser and erase the highlights if I want to. I can use a pen, the laser pointer, just temporarily highlight something. So this uses the pen and it leaves a mark there. And so you have the ability to interact in that way. You can bring up a grid view so that you can see all of your slides, and you can jump around between your slides without everybody seeing your slides. It also gives you the ability in the screen that you're using to put your speaker's notes right up there on the front. And it tells you the timing of how long you've been in the meeting. And so some nice things and some little visual indicators that you're recording. So just a lot that's going on. You also have the ability to have the chat open, or look at the transcript, or look at the people in the meeting. So kind of full console control. The last way that you may or may not be aware of, because it's a somewhat new feature, is when you have a PowerPoint open, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button that says Present in Teams. And when you click that, it will automatically open up the PowerPoint in PowerPoint Live mode in the Teams meeting that you're in. And so it's a pretty cool just automation that you can go straight into your Teams meeting. So just share that as just kind of if y'all do PowerPoints, then it's nice to know what your options are. I will tell you this, a pet peeve of mine is we have a lot of people at corporate that do a lot of PowerPoints, and what they'll do is they will share their whole screen, and because they want to see their slides, they will not put it into PowerPoint mode. And so you see all the slides on the left, and you see their speaker's notes at the bottom, and you see their slide. Their slide is small, and it's not on the full screen. And I just don't think that's super professional to just kind of show everything that's going on. But that's just my opinion. For some people, I think that works really well, and it helps them kind of know where they are in the slide deck. But really whatever works for you. Kind of the cool thing about all these tools we get to use is there's 5 ways to do everything, and different people like different parts. So earlier, Roxy was asking me to show Windows 11, so I'm going to certainly do that. We really, here's the agenda, and there's really not much on the agenda. I did have someone that was going to come in and talk about some of the accessibility best practices for your meetings as accessible as possible. Again, I was talking earlier about the challenge of so many people being on vacation. He's on vacation. And so we're hoping to have that in our August meeting. And then we're also going to, as we've been talking about all year for this kind of calendar year of Texas Teams community meetings, we're going to be talking more about Power Platform and really around using Teams as a way to get more work done with less effort. And so, and I do want to have some open discussion around that today. I'd also love to ask, and you can drop it into the chat, are there some things that are top of mind for you today that you would like to talk about? Roxy said, hey, you know, I haven't seen Windows 11, so could you show me Windows 11? And there's not that much that I can show, but I'll be happy to show a few things. I'm not an expert in Windows 11, so I'm just going to kind of show you the user interface, and that's about it. So anybody else that there is something that they wanted to talk about today, or something going on with that they're wondering about with Teams, or maybe a challenge that they're having with Teams that we could help you with? You're welcome, Erica. Yeah, Margaret, that's a great question. So why don't y'all just keep them coming in? And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to make sure I don't have a bunch of stuff on my desktop that I shouldn't have open, or that I, you know, again, the whole thing that I was talking about earlier, where you want to make sure that you don't accidentally share something that you're not supposed to share. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second here to do that. Let me by raising your hand. So if you don't know how to raise your hand, it's under reactions at the top. And if you click reactions, then there's a little hand. It looks like someone's holding their hand up like this, and that's how you raise your hand. So by raising your hand, would you tell me how many of you are using Windows 11 or have used Windows 11? All right, so we got Brenda. And bring up the people view. Got Brenda, Paul, Rosa. We got Jose. Jose, you guys are using Windows 11? Or do you just have it and doing tests?
Yeah, I have it. We're not planning to deploy anytime soon.
Yeah. All right. And is Star on the line with us today?
Gabriel, what are you doing?
I think I was. Brenda, you talking to us?
Go eat your chicken. Your chicken is in there.
Oh, that's Rita. Hey, Rita, you're off mute. I think you're talking to the cat. That's awesome. Rita's my I don't have cats. I have a dog, but Rita's my favorite cat person. She fills my my cat need in life. Okay, so what I will share with you here. Let me just share my screen, and I'll share my main screen. So this is Windows 11, and let me click here on the screen and get rid of this here. See, I actually don't know how to get rid of this, and there we go. There's one thing that you may have heard talked about is that we move the start button from the left side to the middle. If that totally freaks you out, there is an option to set it back to the left. There's also this little thing over here on the left, and one of the Windows people would be able to tell you it has a name. I know it has a name, but it brings up news and information. And if you're like me and you have squirrel syndrome and you're easily distracted, this is opening this up would be your worst nightmare if you're trying to get something done, because I would immediately go into reading some of these articles. There is also more capability under the start menu, and so it has pinned applications. So the applications that you use most often are here. Now, I haven't actually pinned any. So like if I wanted Word here, then I could pin it to the taskbar, which is already is down here. I can unpin it from the start. I think certain applications that you use a lot, it figures that out and pins them. And then you can also move them around just to make it a little bit easier. And so, by looking at this, you guys can tell basically where I spend a lot of my time. And then it has recommended things that you can open. And here's, as y'all see, I spend a lot of time in PowerPoint. And so, here are a lot of documents that I've recently opened. Something that I have found that not a lot of people know, but that I use all the time, is if you hit the Windows key. The Windows key is the little Microsoft symbol that is 2 keys to the left of your space bar. So you got your space bar, then the Alt key, and then the Windows key. If you hit the Windows key, it will pop up your Start menu, which is okay, big deal. But if you hit the Windows key and you pop up your Start menu and you type Word, then the first thing it'll do is bring up Word here, and you can open that up, or Word Mobile as another app that I have installed here. And so, anything that might be related to Word, it starts bringing up. But what it also does is once you've done that, is it brings up Word documents that you can open. So you can either open the app or you can go to recent documents that you've been looking at. And so the same thing applies with Excel or PowerPoint or any of the apps. If you're a big Notepad fan and you write a lot of code in Notepad, then that's right there. And then all you have to do is hit enter, and it will open the application that you type. So it's just a quick little, like a little shortcut. Another thing that I do really like as well is now, if sometimes there's a capability where you can take an app and you can drag it to the sidebar, and it will put it on this half of the screen, and then you can say, oh, and I'm going to share my screen with this other half of the screen. That's something that's been around for a long time. The other thing you can do is, and you have to find a space to grab it by, is you can shake. Let's see if this is still here. No, it's not here. It's not here anymore. Apparently, you used to be able to shake it, and it would minimize all the applications. So what has been added is that if you hover over this button that allows you to maximize and minimize, if you hover over that, then it gives you different options. And so some of those options now are the ability to divide the screens in different ways, like 2/3, 1/3. But if you pick like this, then it'll give you the ability to pick different apps. And so there we go. And so you can have different, like multiple things open, and it just organizes them in a nice way for you. And then you can drag it so that you can resize the different apps. Now, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense on a single screen, like a laptop screen. But if you're one of those people that is fortunate enough to have one of those mega monitors, then you can actually really divide up your desktop really nicely. Now, there's another capability that is actually having multiple desktops. And so let's see, I don't think I did that. Yeah, here we go. So I just clicked on this button, and I could have desktop 1, desktop 2, and new desktop. Now, this is not the different screens on my computer. This is actually a different desktop. So if I pick this one, I could have completely different apps running here. I could have different design background. I could have different icons on the actual desktop. And so it actually truly is a completely different work surface. So a lot of us work from home these days. And so this would be a great way to say, okay, this is my work desktop and this is my home desktop. And so that way you can leave your work stuff running, but you can switch over here to your home desktop, and maybe you have the things that you concentrate on when you're at home. Maybe you're a gamer or something, and you've got your game icons right here. And it's a great way to kind of separate the space between your different work areas. Now, things that you don't see on the surface with Windows 11, those are just a couple of kind of user experience things that are really nice. What you don't see is all the security features. I'm not an expert in that, but what I can tell you is this is by far the most secure operating system we have ever created. And funny little story here. I'm gonna quit sharing my screen. Funny little story is that I was, let's see here. Let me stop sharing. I presented. I do different presentations. I spoke at some conferences, and I got to speak at South by Southwest. And I was speaking on the future of digital healthcare. I used to be one of our healthcare specialists, and a person asked me, hey, when are you going to fix? What did they say? They said it was something like, when are you going to update Windows 95 or something? And this was way after Windows 95. And I said, well, we did. We call it Windows 10. And so it was just kind of comical. It was like, okay, you are still using a 15-year-old operating system and wondering why it's not working like you want it to. But I'm getting off on a tangent here. Okay, so Roxy, that's just a few things. If you go out to YouTube, we have some really great Microsoft people who have created videos on the actual like real features in Windows 11. Let me bring up the chat. I think it was Andrew put something out there. I have no interest in Windows 11 until they give me back the option to move my taskbar around. I keep it on the top or on the right, not the bottom. I think you can do that, Andra. Yeah, taskbar settings. And personalization and where you have it, I don't know. Taskbar corner, maybe not. Alignment badging. They got the hide the
I know it wasn't
taskbar.
available in the initial release.
Yeah. Now there's left and center for the button. But I know what you're talking about moving the whole thing over to the left. And I don't see that as an option, but it doesn't mean it's not there. I'm more like, I don't really mess with my operating system that much. It's just a palette for me to use Word and PowerPoint and Excel and all that kind of, and Teams on top of. So I couldn't really tell you. Okay, so let me look at some of the other things. Okay, the SharePoint. Yep, Eric, we talked about that. Yeah, so Margaret, the maximum number of participants you can have in a Teams meeting. All right, so we've increased the number over the last couple of years from originally, I think back in the beginning it was like 30, I remember a couple of years ago. And so it has increased. Then it was 100. So now it is, and you're about to stump the chump here. It's either 250 or 300. No. Yeah, either 250 or 300. No, wait a second. Sorry, y'all. I was on vacation for 10 days and I still got vacation brain. It's actually, I think, 1,000 people can be, yes, it is. It can be up to 1,000 people in a Teams meeting. Now, the way that I run this meeting is I want y'all to be able to have your cameras on. I want you to be able to come off of mute, put stuff in the chat, show reactions and, the hearts and the thumbs up and all those kinds of things. And so I run a very open meeting. The idea of having 1,000 people, though, in a meeting where you haven't locked it down at all is really just a recipe for disaster because, someone's going to accidentally come off a mute. And if it's like a big executive meeting or something, that might not be kosher. And so you have very granular controls that you can lock that meeting down. Now, when you get to 1,000 people in a meeting and you have 1,001st person join all the way up to 10,000 people in a meeting, they go into what's called an overflow capacity. Overflow, their experience, if we had a meeting like this meeting where you have chat available and you have the ability to turn on your camera and your microphone, all that kind of stuff, anybody that's 1,000 and more, 1,001 and more, goes into like a listen only mode. It's very similar to attending a live event. So a live event is another type of meeting you can have in Teams if you haven't used it, but it's really for more of like a broadcast mode where there's a presenter, they're speaking, and the other people, they might be able to interact with the moderated chat, but they're not able to come off mute and they're not able to talk and they're not able to raise their hand or anything like that. So kind of a little bit of a tricky answer, Margaret, up to 1,000 people and then overflow up to 10,000 people. Does that make sense? All right. Now, there is another kind of meeting that some of you have used. It got released into GCC about 3 months ago, I think it was. and that's called a Teams webinar. And the only difference between a Teams meeting and a webinar is that a webinar has a registration page. And when you create the meeting, you can still granularly control what your participants can do, whether there's a lobby, all those kinds of things, whether they can come off mute, all the things I've already mentioned. But it creates this registration page. The registration page is a publicly available page. And what I mean by that is it's a web page. And if someone had the URL, they could get to that page. However, you are able to control whether the only people that can register for the event are your employees. So they have to be in your Active Directory. They have to have, like, if you're at TDLR, then it would need to be an at tdlr.texas.gov authenticated user. They can register for the event. So you could say only employees can register for the event, or you can say anyone can register for the event. So if someone has the URL to the registration page, then they can go and fill out the registration. The thing about webinars that's really cool is that, one, it has a registration page. And when someone registers, it sends them a confirmation email, and attached to that confirmation email is the ICS file, so the actually meeting file, so they can open that up and they can save it to their calendar. The other nice things that you can do is with that registration page, you can add custom fields. So if you're having an event, and maybe it's a training event, I'm going to make something up, maybe it's a training event for teams, then you can say, you could do a drop down like, what's your familiarity with Teams? And you could have them tell you how familiar they are, or again, whatever kind of question you want to ask, you can create these custom questions. And so when people register, the fact that they register goes into a spreadsheet, but now any custom fields you create also go into the spreadsheet. So that's really cool. A downside that one of my customers experienced is that you don't have the ability to stop the registration from this standpoint. Let's say you wanted a meeting, like a training, and you really only wanted 50 people in each meeting. You don't have any way to say that, like at 50 people, stop the registration. The other thing is to take if you want to get rid of the registration page, the only way to do that is to cancel the meeting. So there's no real way to turn the page off once you have set it up without getting rid of the meeting. And so that can cause challenges if you're trying to really limit the number of registrants. If you're trying to limit the number of registrants, then one trick that we did is at 50 people, we just kept an eye on the spreadsheet of how many had registered, and we changed the banner at the top, because you can put a nice banner at the top, and we put it in all red, and it said, this training class is full, please register for a different class. Just a little bit of a kind of a skill hack, but it worked for them, but it's not a hard limit. The other thing you can do is you can actually create a Microsoft form, and you can have people register for something with a form, and you can use Power Automate so that once they fill out the form, it registers them for the event, sends a confirmation, sends them the attached file. You guys may remember Billy Stevenson demoed that for us about a year and a half ago. So that's been around for quite a while. So lots of different things you can do with the meeting. Okay, so that was a kind of extended dance version answer to your question, Margaret. Let's see. So Andra, do we have co-organizers for Teams meetings yet? We do have co-organizers in the commercial Office 365. Does anybody know has anybody seen it in the GCC? So for those that aren't familiar, GCC stands for Government Community Cloud. If you are a state agency, you are most likely in a GCC tenant. That's the government version of Office 365. And there are a few agencies that have a commercial Office 365 environment because they signed up before the government version was available, or they didn't have the regulatory requirement of using a GCC environment. GCC has additional certifications for CJIS, Criminal Justice Information System information, as well as IRS 1075 and a couple of other things. They really are equally secure. It's just the regulatory controls that are placed on GCC. So does anybody know if co-organizer is in GCC yet? Under, you're not seeing it though?
It's not,
Nope,
it's
I
not
haven't
in
seen it
ours.
yet.
What was that, Jose?
It's not in ours yet.
Okay, yeah, it must not be out. So co-organizer is a great feature that gives you the ability to literally add a co-organizer to a meeting. The advantage of that is that you have multiple people that then have the full control over the meeting and can go and set meeting options and all those kinds of things that are not available to just someone who is a presenter. So you've got organizer, presenter, and attendee. And so the other thing that having a co-organizer makes possible is that you may have an internal group that sets up your big meetings, but then that person that sets those meetings up doesn't necessarily attend and isn't going to run the meeting. And so in that case, the ability to add a second co-organizer, like if I was in, let's just say the public relations group and I created this big meeting for something and then Jose was going to be the one that was going to be presenting, I would make Jose the co-organizer so that he would then, as he goes into the meeting, have the full controls. It's coming. I know it is coming, but I don't know when. Okay, so when you share in PowerPoint Live, if a guest clicks the slide arrows, are they previewing slides or changing it for everyone? That's a great question, Margaret. And so there's a couple of options there. The first thing is PowerPoint Live does have the ability for your attendees to actually move forward through your slide deck. And if you move forward through this slide deck, what you're going to see is that the slides are the June slides. And so what I do is each time I start, I open up the previous month's deck. I do a save as because of the auto saving. If you make changes to the deck, then it saves us automatically, and you can always go back to the previous version. But I save the previous deck, and I saved it as the July deck, and then I go and I change the agenda, and then I change my slides all around. Well, I didn't have that much content for this one, so I just left those other slides back there. So you have the ability right now to move back and forth through the slides. And there's nothing secret in there, and so I'm happy for you to see those. But if I didn't want you to see those slides, or I just really wanted to kind of control the story arc of the slides and the story I was telling with the slides, or I didn't want to, didn't want you to, fast forward to the award slide and who won the awards, then at the top in PowerPoint Live, there's this thing that's called Private View. They just changed the name to Private View, which I'm just noticing, and it's a little eyeball. And if I click on that, then it gets a little hash mark through the eyeball. And once I've done that, then the attendees lose the ability to move back and forth through the slides. Now, let's just say that Margaret and I were we were doing a presentation together, and it was time for Margaret to present. Then she could actually click the take control. And if she clicked on the take control, then it would send me a request. Margaret wants to take control, and I could say yes or no. And if Margaret took control, then she would actually then be able to move through the slides, and everybody would see the slides changing. But when Margaret, if you are advancing through the slides, if I enable that capability, then everybody else doesn't see that. That's just you. That was a super long answer to a short question, but I have a lot of words, so that's kind of par for the course. Windows 11 requires me buying a new computer. Yeah, David, that can sometimes be the case. There are a lot of things built into Windows 11 for backward compatibility for older file types, older versions of the browser, older applications that aren't compatible with the newest versions of the browser, all those kinds of things. But there does come a point when your processor and your memory is just not enough to run the new operating system. And it sounds like that might be the case for you. And that is the case for a lot of our customers where they've got a lot of older machines and the budget not to replace them. So Vince, you said that could have been worse. What does that mean? I don't follow you there. You typed that in when I wasn't looking. feel free to come off mute if you want or not. Okay, what else do we have? Appreciate it.
Yeah, Michael, that was the accidental whatever. Someone was getting some chicken or something, right? So,
Oh, yes.
That's so 20 minutes ago, but yeah, it could always be worse.
So were you on the meeting? This was like a year and a half ago,
Oh.
where there was a gentleman and he was talking to somebody, and I know I got a lot of words, and so I own that. But he's like, yeah, the Teams guy for Microsoft is blathering on and on and on.
Oh my God! Yes, I was on that one, and I was just
hilarious.
crying, dying, laughing. So
I know, I was too.
We love you, but yeah, that was you just have to laugh at that.
No, I know.
Yeah,
it was awesome, and I made a tough choice. Well, first I muted him, and so I didn't let it keep going. And then I have the ability to edit the videos afterward, that I download and trim them and all that kind of stuff. But it takes a lot of time, and it has a certain level of just, it's a level of difficulty. I chose just to leave that part in, and so on my YouTube channel with all the videos is that little that moment. But I don't even remember what month that was.
No, that's on that gentleman. He's the one that should be embarrassed.
I know. But even to this day, I mean, as much as I'm, the Teams guy and all that kind of stuff, I still sometimes speak on, when I'm not supposed to, when I'm not on mute. One of the things I love about this hybrid world we're living in, and on NPR they call it the before times. Kyle Rizdal calls it the before times, but this kind of post-pandemic, or we've been in the pandemic for 2 years. It's just the amount of grace that people give each other. It's not a big deal now when someone's talking on mute. It's like it used to be like, and now it's kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. So I think that's great. Okay. All right. Yeah, Margaret, and if there's anything I can do to assist you guys, if there's some level of depth that you're needing, then I'm happy to help. Okay, what else? Can you remind me, is HHSC in GCC or commercial? Yeah, Michaela, great question. You guys are actually in a commercial Office 365 tenant. So is the Texas Department of Transportation. And I think the comptroller, that may not be right. No, that's not right. There's one other large agency that is in a commercial Office 365 tenant, and then like Teacher Retirement System is in a commercial O365 tenant because they didn't need the CGIS compliance, and there was a couple of other things. But I will tell you this: switching from one tenant type to another tenant type it's a big deal, and it's very complex. TDLR actually switched a long time ago. It was a bit of a nightmare, and they did it early on when we had just created GCC, and so the tools weren't there. I don't recommend it. So if you are hearing me talking about two different kinds of tenants and you think, ooh, we should switch, don't. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Okay. The cat chicken thing got events. Okay, well, that's all the stuff that we have in the chat. So I have something that I would love to talk to you all about. We've been talking, and this theme for this year, and if you're new to the Texas Teams community, we have a theme each year. Last year we did a theme kind of based around the Back to the Future, and got the little Back to the Future car here, and that was we don't need roads where we're going, because it was all about the hybrid work. This year's theme is One Tribe with more cowbell. One Tribe is really making note of the fact that 100% of Texas agencies are now using Teams, which is just absolutely incredible, and just such a huge accomplishment for all of you who are users of Teams and who are in IT or in the business groups and really help make that happen. So that's One Tribe. And then with more cowbell there's all these additional capabilities where Teams becomes what can be referred to as kind of the operating layer. So we're using Teams right now for a meeting. We could do that in Skype, we could do that in WebEx, we could do that in Zoom. But what Teams also has the ability to do is be this collaboration platform. And we've talked about that on a lot of our community meetings. You have the ability to have, of course, these document repositories and co-authoring and, all the kind of amazing things you can do with chat. But then there is all the things you can now do with Power Automate to do automations. And those can be just automations for yourself. They can be automations for your group, automations for the whole organization. And David Gottlieb has spoken quite a bit about that. And so the more cowbell is the more things that we can do. And some of our agencies have already really leaned in and embraced what we call Power Platform and the things like Power Automate and Power Apps and some additional third-party apps that can be integrated into Teams. So what I'd love to talk about is if you are one of the organizations that has done that, and you know about this, what is your, let's see, let me expand a little bit more. Oftentimes in an agency, there is a group of people that are in charge of helping the organization streamline business processes, creating different approaches. That could be something around just kind of organizational change management, kind of business process realignment, like Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma, the black belt, all that kind of stuff. It could be actually helping them use some of these tools like Power Automate or other things. And it could be a large group of people that are in like a office of transformation or something along that line, or a transformation department, or it could be just a couple of people. But one of the things that I've been thinking about is, would it be helpful for Microsoft to create a kind of an input process? In other words, when someone has an idea or a request, they would be able to go and they would either fill out a form or they would kick off some kind of workflow. But like David Gottlieb has shown, business groups come to his group and they say, here's this business process and it's really hard or it's really ugly or it's all paper-based. We want to streamline this, and how would you go about that? And so what I'm thinking is, why don't we put together kind of a standardized Power Platform process and template that we can give to all of you, so that if you are just starting down this journey, then you'd have a starting place for kind of a request process. And if anybody is willing to come off of mute and say, hey, we already did that on our own, or that would be cool, or what are you, crazy? I don't need user requests. I don't want that. So anybody have any thoughts on that? I saw someone clap hands.
I think that would be a great idea, Michael. I would certainly like to take advantage of it. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, awesome, Chris. Thank you for coming on. It's great to see you always. And
likewise.
So yeah, we have a couple of people that have just joined our State of Texas team that are really very deep subject matter experts. Now we had two people on our team that were already super deep, and the fact that we now have more is just fantastic. And one gentleman used to be what we call a global black belt on our Power Platform, our Biz Apps team. And so I'm going to work with them on coming up with there probably already is something like this, because it's not a unique need. But what I want to do is kind of package this up. And then what we'll do is we'll do a workshop, and we'll invite all of y'all. And so, and Chris, anybody at TWC that would like to participate. And what we'll do is we'll do a workshop on how to set this up, how to run it, how to do the care and feeding of it, how to customize it for your particular needs. And then I think that'll just make it easier for us to kind of control the process of these requests. And my idea here is that we have a request process. And then once someone has submitted the request, then it goes into a review process where you have people who are experts in what's possible. And inside of our Power Platform, there's not 5 ways that you can do something like, big differentiated ways. There's model-driven apps and Canvas apps, and then there's portals, and then there's going to be a new type that I'm blanking on right this second. But there's like multiple like first decision approaches, and so we would be able to have the ability to pick the approach, and then we'd have the ability to. I know a lot of y'all use Agile as a methodology, and so you could actually apply points to that solution and just say, that's probably about 20 hours worth of work. And then the other thing I think would be really cool is to be able to then say, does this align to one of our strategic initiatives? And if so, which one? Because I know, your executive commissioners or your COOs or CIOs or whoever in your leadership, they have goals for the organization, and they're written up in your strategic plan. And if we could tie something that we're going to do to enable the business to one of those strategic initiatives, I think there could be real value in that, because then, as David Gottlieb has shown, we can track that over time, and we can really show, like using Power BI and integrating that data and kind of thinking about that in advance, what have we been able to accomplish? And so that's the goal. So yeah, Judy, so true on Power Automate. Able to impress with zero code. Yeah, absolutely, Judy. And I love Judy is new to Power Automate and to the Power Platform, and she's doing some really cool work. So okay, Chris, I pinged our team earlier today about this, and I'll follow up. I'll let them know that there is absolutely some interest. And then I know you guys are pretty far along, and I know also got some other organizations that are pretty far along. And I'll reach out to y'all, and maybe we could do like a little brainstorming activity around what you'd like to see. So expect me to follow up on that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate that. Well, I don't have anything else that, again, it's kind of just an open discussion, and apologies, I just didn't have more content for y'all today. Are there other things, though, that y'all want to talk about? If not, we can certainly give you some time back today. Don't want to just drone on and on, as our gentleman friend told us. All right. Well, thanks y'all for coming in I'm going to look at the temperature on a 102-degree day. It's a scorcher out there, so it's good to be inside. Thanks for attending. I know a lot are on vacation. I hope you'll have a fantastic rest of your July. I think we will have a meeting in August. So we've got the TASK conference coming up on the 29th of, the 30th of July, I think, through the 3rd of August. And then we'll have our Texas Teams community. And then also, I just want to let y'all know, we are going to have a hybrid work summit for agency leaders. So this is like CIO, executive commissioner, COO, as well as your business groups. So HR, organizational change management, your communications group. And so really just talking not about the technology, but just what are the latest trends that we're seeing. And that's going to be coming up in September. I'll tell you all more about that. It really is for the executive level. And I'll just be speaking to things like workplace culture and diversity and inclusion. But I might work, through y'all to really let your business leaders know. I don't really know many of them, but I would like for them to be able to be invited. And so if y'all don't mind, I might reach out to you and just say, who could you pass this on to people in your organization that are these roles, so that we could get as good an attendance as possible. It's going to be an in-person event here in Austin at our Microsoft office. We're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion. We're going to be talking about ways to really, for executives to have a really strong executive presence by leveraging this platform and the technology for things like town hall meetings. Then we're also going to be showcasing some metaverse and mixed reality solutions for public sector that I think are going to be really, it's what's coming in the future, but it's things to think about today and things that are already in market and helping public sector organizations. And so we're going to share a little bit of that. So it's going to be a very good conference. Again, I appreciate y'all's help. Well, y'all have
Michael, do you have a date?
Yeah. The tentative date, Andra, is September 14th. We were going to do it in August, but there's just too many people on vacation and we weren't able to get it organized. And I don't want to, it needs plenty of runway to work on it. So yeah, the tentative date is September 14th. That's a Wednesday.
And that's something that we'll have some more information on the DIR website about also soon.
That's right, on the events page.
Yeah.
One last thing I will share. I'm not sure if anybody from, I think Cap Metro was going to have some people join today, and there was also some new people, I think, from TDI. I'm not sure if they're on, but if you would sign up on the Texas Teams Community Interest List, here is the link, and I'll drop that in the chat. And then also, whoops, go. You can scan the QR code. Again, I've discussed this in the past. I use a pretty manual process. We don't have a platform for running these kinds of communities. And I'm trying to keep a current list. And when someone forwards the meeting request, I don't have them in my list. And so if you're new and if you would please go to this URL and would just fill out the form, it's real simple. And you can add yourself to the list and you can remove yourself. If you click remove, I'd love to say it's all automated. It's not. It's me going and looking at the list and trying to pull your name out of the meeting request invite. So pretty old school. And that's it. Thanks, y'all.
Bye, Michael. Thank you for the information.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you both. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.